And we're going to start with a meditation. And I'm going to just ask you to relax and really arrive. Our bodies are here. And now let us bring ourselves here as well. Can be two different things, we all know. So allowing your eyes to close only because it is easier to simply be present if we're not looking around. And noticing how does the body feel? How does your body feel right now? Your feet on the floor. The touch points. Notice your seat on the chair, the sofa, wherever it is that you're sitting. And your back. Notice the experience of the touch just at that point. What does it feel like? And noticing your hands. Maybe they're in your lap. Maybe they're on the arms of chairs, wherever. Experience each hand and what it feels like right now. What is its experience in this moment? And noticing too, is there any pain or tension in any place in your body? Scanning your body right now. Maybe it's not an outright pain, maybe it's just a tightness. Just noticing. No judging. No need for conversation with yourself about why it's there, to justify or resent it. Just noticing. Allowing the attention to rest in the body. Experiencing body sensations. The body being present right here, right now, this very place where it is sitting. And maybe you'll notice any shift or subtle changes in the sensations of the body. If there's a slight tension in one spot, and maybe when you look again, it's no longer there. Or maybe it's a little bit more intense. What's true in your body at this point? Just noticing. And now I invite you to take that backward step with your attention. Move your attention, loosen it, let go of attention on the body. And simply be present. Simply allow the attention to be present with no object. Not holding on to any object. If the attention goes back to the body or to a thought for a moment, step away. Let it loosen that attention, that hold, and step back into just pure awareness. Might only be for a moment, and then you lose it. No problem. Go back again. Step back again. Can you notice a difference in the experience of letting go of a focus of attention and just resting in awareness? It's a subtle difference. Can you notice that? And again, maybe only for an instant, the mind will rest in pure awareness. No problem. Noticing when it gets stuck on a thought or on the body or on any other object, and let go again. The backward step. Allowing this to be, I will say, almost like the non-focus or the non-effort that you are making right now. To continue to step back with the attention, to just let it rest. Each time it wants to grab onto an object, to the content of experience in some way, turn away. Step back. There's no need to try to create anything or to do anything. It's so very simple that we often are unaccustomed to doing it. Just resting in what already is there. Pure awareness, always and already present. In fact, it is presence. You can't lose it. Your attention can only dart away from it and grab onto some experience, some content. And for right now, we're simply allowing attention to rest. And when you lose that non-focus, come back again. Not to worry if this feels difficult, if you haven't done it before. Just keep on. This is your true nature. You're being invited to rest in it. This is what you are before you are anything else. Your essential nature. It is wordless. It's formless. It has no characteristics. It simply is. If thoughts arise, and they probably will, don't get hooked into them. Being mindful, noticing, and simply unhook. Unhook and rest in pure awareness. possible that you will wonder if you're doing this right, if you're experiencing what the mind feels is nothing. Just keep resting. It is resting in what to the mind is nothing. This is our original nature. Before the mind, the thinking mind, even began. True nature is not constrained or limited by thoughts or perceptions or sensations. It is free of all of those. It is boundless. It is what each of us, as seeming individuals, share with every other being, human and non-human. We can call it oneness, but it's not a oneness crowded by 8 billion humans and many, many more non-human beings. It is before, more essential. It is that which we all share. In fact, it is love, original love, not an emotion. Not love of a specific individual or being, human or non, but simply the force that exists prior. We always are true nature. That is what we are, not what we have. And now we're being it knowingly. We always are it. And now, as we rest in true nature, we are knowingly being what we are. I've ended meditation a little earlier than usual tonight because there were a few things I wanted to say before we take our break. And I thought this, recognizing that all of us have experienced, I think, a very difficult week in terms of the news. And we all know we're living at a very hard time and can sometimes so easily feel overwhelmed. I think it's been part of almost every conversation I've had with anyone. I think in the midst of all of this, so much happening, that we can wonder, am I causing a rebound or something? Or maybe, I think, yes, there's a vibration. Is that me? Do you hear it? How's that? Better? Great. Thank you. So I think that we can sometimes wonder amidst all of this whirlwind of news and drastic change, like, what's the point of the spiritual journey, of the spiritual path? I mean, we're not going to change anything by it. What does it mean? Why get involved with it anyway? And maybe even wonder, is it just an escape at a time when we're feeling helpless? And so, since I have been talking about the spiritual journey, and tonight is the third of that series on the spiritual journey, I really wanted to talk for just a few minutes about the significance of the spiritual journey. Because, first of all, ever since human species has been in existence, we have felt intuitively something about a greater power, the existence of a greater power. And we all know that indigenous cultures have a very strong sense of that. And for a few thousand years, contemplatives in the various religious traditions have experienced the same oneness that indigenous peoples have. It's not like they're three different kinds of oneness, right? They may frame it differently, but oneness is oneness. As the Hindus say, there's one truth and many paths, many, many paths. And we as human species have experienced those many paths over our lifetime. And as Lisa Miller, the scientist from Columbia University, discovered in MRI tests, that 1/3 of the human brain governs its capacity for spirituality. It is hardwired in us. It's not something that we concoct. It's right within us. So that's one aspect of us. We have, of this spiritual journey, it is part of our human inheritance. And I would just say, in terms of the vertical path, I think I'll just skip the vertical for right now. I've talked about it before. I may talk about it in a while. Just the spiritual journey is part of our human inheritance. And at the same time, throughout our history, our human beings have been ego-driven by greed, hate, and delusion, as the Buddha pointed out, called the three poisons. And the Buddha referred to them, in fact, as likening the three poisons of greed, hate, and delusion to parasitic vines that will grow on trees or shrubs and strangle them. Very graphic. And throughout history, what is the history of humankind? Greed, hate, and delusion play a major role. So here we have these two forces, and Greed, hate, and delusion are driven by ego, right? It's driven by ego. The result of them internally, they cause suffering. And as the Buddha said, first, noble truth. There is suffering in life. There's a link here. There is suffering in life. Why? Greed, hate, and delusion. We are ego-driven. And to that extent, we will suffer. So, the questions to ask, or rather before the question, it occurred to me, a comment that Hobbes made, the cartoon character, Calvin's pal. He said, human beings think of themselves as such a big screaming deal. And I thought, that pretty much gets it. We think of ourselves as a big screaming deal. And that is the ego-driven part of us. It's the me, and it's the suffering. So the questions that come up is, what if, instead of being driven by ego, and particularly greed, hate, and delusion, and remember, hate is just not this violent hate, because maybe you think to yourself, well, I don't hate anybody, but it's the aversion, right? The pushing away, the not wanting. Instead of being driven by that, what would it be like if human beings were able to live from their original nature, the nature which is shared by all, the nature which is boundless, the nature which is love by its very boundlessness? What if that were possible? What if we were able to allow that nature to shine through us in our thoughts and our actions and what we did? How would that change things? Now, I realize this is an idealistic projection, question. And it's unrealistic, I think, that the whole human species is all of a sudden, or even gradually, going to come to living through its original nature. But consider the alternative of us as a human species continuing as we are. We have reached a point when there are so very many of us, and we're so bound together by communications of all kinds. There's very little room. It's the butterfly effect amplified many times. What happens in a butterfly flaps its wings in Argentina and there's a storm in Kansas or something like that. Well, this happens all over the world, and it's not just on the level of the weather. It's how we behave as human beings. What if this continues with all 8 billion and rising numbers? If human beings do not live, if we continue to be guided by greed, hate, and delusion, even if a wonderful day would happen when there were peace here in this country and things were going smoothly instead of the drastic changes, and elsewhere too, what if all of that were resolved somehow, which we would love it to be? We're working, many of us, for that to happen. But what is the realistic projection for the future? As long as humans are being driven by what humans always have been driven by. So this is what brings me to the question, what's the significance of the spiritual path? The spiritual path is a path of transformation. It's not about perfection. It's not suggesting anybody is going to be this perfect, loving individual, and not only loving, but perfect in any way. No, that's not going to happen. But what does happen on this spiritual journey is increasingly the original nature, the original nature begins to shine through. You don't make it shine through, but with the awakened view is when it does begin to shine through. What happens if more and more of us experience that, participate in that? This, I think, is the significance for ourselves. It's a blessing, And for everyone else, it's a blessing. For the planet, it's a blessing. And this is what I suggest is the evolution of human consciousness. We here are participating in it, in the evolution of human consciousness. Not only, and we're doing this as individuals. We may not be able to make any major change politically or individually, but we can make major changes in who we as seeming individuals are. And that is how consciousness, human consciousness, evolves. So that's my thought about the possible question, like, what am I really doing in a spiritual journey when everything else is falling to pieces? So thank you, everybody, for that listening. I hope you will just keep it in mind, see if it resonates with you. So I've been offering a series called What I Wish I Had Been Told, a map of the spiritual journey. And tonight is the third talk on that topic. And I'm calling this talk Comin Around the Mountain. And it's based on a song that I guess we've all heard when we were maybe 5 years old. You remember it? She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Okay, so I will explain why I'm going to do this, talk about this one later on. But first of all, I thought what I would do is I'll just very, very briefly review what I've said so far in the first few talks, because this builds. And I'm hoping that either you've looked at it or whatever, but here's just a brief overview. And that is, first of all, mapping of the spiritual journey. Just almost all of the inner spiritual traditions have maps of what the spiritual journey looks like, starting from wherever the beginning is. And I will say the Theravada tradition, which is the spiritual ancestor of mindfulness, has one very complicated one, which I will not go into tonight, but the point of it is freedom. It's freedom. So maps of the spiritual journey, what I'm doing or what I'm offering is based on basically both my experience and a little bit more than that, but it's simple. It's no technical terms. So I hope that it is somewhat meaningful to you as you've been listening or will listen. And maybe hold it in your mind and heart and see how it tallies with yours. So first of all, I am talking about it, and we'll be talking about it in terms of the spiritual journey, in terms of 4 phases. I've talked about, last time I started talking about phase, I'm going to overview what they are. I'm talking about phase 1 is, as I understand it. Now, you can differ. You're welcome to differ. But phase 1, as I understand it, I think I'll just hold this, is questioning. Okay, that's simpler. Phase 1 is questioning. And the truth is, not everybody asks questions like, what's it all about? Simple. I suspect everyone here has asked these questions. You probably wouldn't be here if you didn't. But a lot of people just don't bother, or they will take the received wisdom, and that's it. But so asking questions, what's it all about? I talked also about a basic metaphor, I guess, for reality. 2 axes on reality, or 2 components to reality. I'm really briefly going to go over it, but I talked about it in terms of a cross, no religious connotation. The horizontal axis is the conventional reality as we see it, a past, a present, and a future, a me and an others involved in that. It's conventional reality based in time and space, and we all know it so well. What we assume is reality, and It is reality in which suffering is built in. Why? Because it is a reality according to our perceptions, my perceptions as a me, yours as an I. Each one of us has our I. And it's what we like and what we don't like. Each of us has certain needs and likes. Suffering. We want what we want, we don't want what we don't want, and that's not bad. But you can see that as long as on this horizontal, conventional understanding of what reality is, there's automatically going to be suffering involved in it. And separation. Starting with I. Once we got an I, then there are all kinds of things. Okay, that's one axis. The other axis is the vertical axis, which is within our human inheritance. It's part of us. Another aspect of reality, it is what we know intuitively to be true, what I was talking tonight, and invited us into. And that is that which we truly are, the pure awareness which we truly are. I'm not going to go into a large discussion of that now. We've done that before, do it again. But that which we truly are, which precedes, as they say in Zen, it's your original, this is in Zen, they call it your original face before you were born. We're calling it your original nature, your true nature. And there are many, many other top words for it. These two, as we begin to see glimpses of this, and we see glimpses of this intuitive reality, we begin to experience things like synchronicities that can't quite be explained, and usually often we just kind of say, oh, well, just an accident and bypass it. But these synchronicities are often like neon lights saying, look here, it's the universe calling us. Hey, there's something more. It's not just this horizontal reality. So both of these together, in that area where the cross meets the junction, that's where the vertical breaks through our experience of the horizontal. And we can see it in glimpses of the vertical, our pure awareness. And when it breaks through either often enough or just as a major breakthrough, it blows open our understanding of reality. We understand that, whoa, reality is far more than I understood it to be. Most of us as human species takes it as just what goes on day by day. That's our resume and so forth. But when this breakthrough occurs, particularly not only in the glimpses, but the awakening occurs. And this then is phase 2 when that happens. I'm limiting. Obviously, this is artificial. Doesn't happen. It doesn't all of a sudden, it's not a big sign comes down, you've entered phase 2. But anyway, just to make it simple, that's phase 2, when you actually awaken to this vertical, the truth of it, and that is unbounded. It, again, is what I invited us into tonight as we were talking. And maybe you caught moments of that. It is your nature. You know it. It is what's present when we're in deep sleep. We're not around. I mean, what we identify as oneself. Deep sleep. You awake, that happened. It's same thing, except we are awake on a different level. So that's awakening, that's phase 2. And then as we have awakened, and what we have seen has no bounds. It has no characteristics. This vertical. And I'm hoping some of you, I'm sure many of you have just experienced at least instances of it. So we experience that, and when we awaken, it kind of blows open our understanding of reality. And that can happen either very gently, or it can happen just spontaneously and be a major trauma, I guess you'd say, in life, when you realize, whoa, everything is very different from what I thought it would be. So we have seen or glimpsed that reality is not simply what we thought it was. However, while we recognize that, we don't yet live it. It takes time between the recognizing of it and the living of it, the allowing that recognition to actually shine through in daily life. It takes time. Why? Because we have all of our conditioned responses that we've had all our life. All of our beliefs of what reality is. We now see that it really isn't like that. It's something far different. But it doesn't just, that lingers on within our conditioned being. So there is this period of which can be our entire life of aligning our lives and with the truth of what we have seen. Does that make sense? So I started talking about that last time, of aligning our lives with the truth of what we are seeing. And that's why I'm calling this talk Comin Round the Mountain, because it occurred to me that quite unintentionally, that song really talks, it is consistent with aligning. The first verse, she'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. And the second one is, she'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes. The third, and we'll all go out to meet her when she comes. And the fourth one is, we'll be singing hallelujah when she comes, so forth. We'll be singing hallelujah. Hallelujah means God be praised. I mean, that's the derivation, that's the term. So it's a very special thing, as you can see, when she's coming around the mountain, right? Same for us. When I'm talking about the evolution of human consciousness, this is what's going on, our coming around the mountain. The evolution of human consciousness, and it doesn't happen, it can, overnight. I mean, even the great ones, and I'm thinking of someone that some of you may have heard of, like Ramana Maharshi, a 20th century Indian, incredibly saint. When he was 16 years old, he had an awakening, and he still went through years, and he left home all on his own. And a 16-year-old boy, I won't go into his life, but at any rate, it took him years as well. So for us as well, it takes for years coming around that mountain, because the mountain is all of our conditioning. Not that our conditioning is bad, it's human. We're going to be conditioned, that's the way things are. But we need to be able to see through it. It doesn't mean that we totally drop it, but we need to align our thoughts and our actions with what we see as reality. And that's a process of aligning and integrating, and it can be a lifelong process. So the thinking of that coming around the mountain. So it's each of us is what we're doing. Okay, so there is both an active, let's see, partly this happens naturally, this aligning. That is, okay, I just speak from my own experience that when it happened for me, and I was in my 20s, and it was a spontaneous awakening. I won't go into that drama, because I had no idea of anything. I have had the advantage of what all you have. You all are hearing all of this stuff. I knew nothing, zero, about any of this. But in addition to a lot of other things, I found over time, and I mean over the few months afterwards, new awarenesses began to happen and open for me that I had no idea of. I was able, one of the things I remember, I was able to hear my own voice in a way I'd never heard it before. I realized I'd been unconscious to what my voice sounded like. I was able to remember things, or I was in new ways, or I was able to pick out things that were important that I'd never noticed before, see it in new perspective. It was a new perspective. It was just a new perspective. And then I went into graduate school, and I remember everything changed for me. And I'm talking about when I would take exams or whatever. I was able to see. It wasn't the big laborious, such a laborious project, project. I could see what was needed in many places. But at any rate, this is all just to say that this coming around the mountain, this process of aligning or integrating, partly happens on its own. I didn't make any of those things happen. I could never have thought of that. But at the same time, partly, we have to do it. We have to intentionally align. We have to intentionally align our life and our actions with what we see. And I can tell you, first of all, I've invited all of us in this meditation, and I've in others' meditations as well, to let go and drop into awareness, natural awareness. And maybe you found that hard, maybe not, but I can only say it gets easier over time as you do it more and more. I mean, there will be a time when it's just that. You can go there. I'm not saying you stay there forever. That is something else, the staying there. But nonetheless, you can go there. It becomes easier over time. Why? Because it isn't a big effort. It is powered by love. You do it because you love it. You do it because you know in your heart, this is true, this is right. And I can only say you can feel so much in your behaviors, not that you're onto it. You can feel the flow of it as you go. And I think of a comment by Shunryu Suzuki, was a 20th century Zen master, and he said that on this path there are 1,000 little moments that make one dance. And I just love that. That's what this is about. It's about dancing. You know when things open, you see a new opening, and it goes on. This is coming around the mountain, on and on and on. All kinds of subtle things, very subtle. And it happens just naturally. So that's why I'm calling it coming around the mountain. And we have to take, as I said, an active role. And last time I spoke what I called, I hope for ease of memory, 4 R's to come around, to align. And I said, first of all, we have to remember. And that is, you're in the middle of something and you're overwhelmed with something or busy with something. Remember just for a moment. That's the first R. Oh, yes, pure awareness. And you can drop back into it just for a second. Rest there. That's the second one. Return is the second one. Remember, then you return. Third is you rest there, just maybe for a moment. And then that's the aligning. Day in and day out, do it many times, many, many visits. I'll call it mini visits to pure awareness each day. Do it many times. And it's just so quick. There's nothing, it's just it can be like that, just a snap of the finger. So those are the 4 R's. I've only broken it down like that because some people might find that easier to identify if I've broken it down into phases. So, okay, that's coming around the mountain and what we need to do, and I can't overemphasize the importance of doing it many times a day, many visits to pure awareness, to that which you are, remembering it, remembering it. So, this aligning is what we're doing, is we're integrating the vertical and the horizontal axes that I've just talked about. It's not just a 50-50 deal. Oh, 50% vertical and 50% horizontal. No. It is increasingly living from the vertical, living from the truth of what you've seen and letting it shine into the horizontal. Does that make sense? The relationship between the two. Okay, we're going to have time right now for discussion, so I will, if you have questions. So I'm just going to finish with a poem by Rumi, which I love, and I think it is applicable. And he said, the breeze of dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you truly want. Don't go back to sleep. People are passing over back and forth over the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Where the two worlds touch, I've just talked about those two worlds in terms of the horizontal and the vertical. It's the same thing. Conventional reality, which we assume is what's real, with all its multiplicity and beauty and difficult things, horror, and the vertical, which is unbounded. So thank you for listening.